This is the Creality Falcon2 Pro. It is a 60-watt laser, so very high-powered laser. Still running on 120 volts, so just plugs in your regular socket, your regular outlet, and the 60 watts will cut up to like 20 millimeter of wood in one pass, but we'll get into those details here in a moment. But what can you build? You can build things like this here. I built a little battery holder for Milwaukee batteries just by building some box with tabs and gluing it together. And you can actually adjust this to different places depending on which batteries you have and slide them into different areas and things like that. So just with some tabs and a few minutes of design work on Lightburn, and we're building something like this. You can also do things like gaskets and stuff like that. But let's just show the simplicity of this. The reason I really like this from Creality, I'm gonna put this in here. By the way, it's got like a cutting bed of like 400 meters by 415 meters, which is basically 16 by 16 and a half inches. And one of the reasons I really like this machine is most of your lasers, and especially your entry model lasers, are just kind of an open bed, and then you have to wear glasses. You got to look out for where the arc is shining, things like that, and you could definitely get blinded by a laser. But this is all included, so you have this laser eye protection built in. And by the way, there's also a micro switch on here that it won't operate the laser until you actually close this. So I really like this idea. Now, getting this laser, initially setting it up, you do have to put together kind of this cage here on the top and slide in these plexiglass covers. I'm not going to go through all the setup. There's plenty of videos on that, and it's very self-explanatory. They have instructions for you to do it, but you could probably figure it out without using the instructions. You need a computer to run this, but you really don't need a computer to run this. You're definitely going to need a computer to actually, build your files and things like that, but then from there, you can actually use the included card here to load things on this, slide it in the card slot, and actually run the file right there from that. So you don't have to hook up your computer if you don't want to. It's much easier to have Lightburn hooked up, then you can make adjustments on the fly. Anyway, before I explain all that in detail, let's close this up. And what we're going to be doing is actually building another one of these boxes. However, we're going to build one that will fit the big 12 amp hours, because you can see not quite wide enough to fit that. So we're going to build another one that's a little bit bigger. So you see I put a sheet in here. I think this is actually like 16 by 18. So you see it fits in there. So I get that in there. And then over here on the right side of the diode here, there's little thumb screws. You can loosen that up. And that's so you can actually raise and lower this. And then you have a little block here. Depending on what you're cutting or engraving, you need to adjust your height or actually dial in the laser to that. So let's see, cutting 1 to 3 millimeter, cutting 4 to 6, and this is actually 5 millimeter plywood. Tighten the thumb screws, remove that, and you should be good to go now. And another cool thing about the Creality Falcon 2 is that right across this main bar, under here, there's a little bit thicker bar than this. It's about that wide, and it goes all the way across. There's a camera actually under here, and it's a fisheye camera, meaning it will get a very wide area, even though we're only 10 or 12 inches off the base that's actually where it's cutting, but it will see that whole platform. Let me show you. So right here in Lightburn, and again, I won't get into details here. There's plenty of videos out there to teach you on Lightburn, but here's the base of what we're about to cut here. So we're about to cut 3 different pieces of wood with these tabs in it. And if I go over here, then I can actually change this to camera control, and I can say update overlay, and now you can see what the camera is seeing inside the basin there. So it's actually seeing the plywood, and let me turn it on, and we'll probably see a better picture here. I turned it on with a light, and now let me update overlay, and you see now it's actually showing you these overlaid pieces actually on the wood. So you can see where it's cutting on the wood, and you can line things up, and you're not just seeing a white graph base there. So really nice to have that camera there. You can watch it cut as it's going, but that's not so much as important as just kind of having that layout before you get started. Makes things like this, when you're actually laying things out, give you a better idea and understanding of exactly where it's going to lay out when it actually cuts and engraves. Now we're going to go ahead and get started on here, and then while this is running, we'll talk about some other things and go over some different things. But first, what I want to do is tell this, since I actually manually moved this around, I want that to go back to home, so I'm going to say home. And of course, you can have that home origin to be in the center, the front corner, the back corner, any of these areas that you want to. But anyway, I told it to come home. and then I'm going to tell it to frame before I get started, and that's just going to do a quick layout of where this cutter head is actually going to cut on this wood. Now with the layout and the camera, you really don't have to do this, but this just gives you kind of double protection that you know all the cutting is going to happen actually on the board where you're cutting, or the engraving on metal, or whatever you're going to be doing. And you can adjust your wood if you needed to, and go back and say frame again. And again, just making sure that everything's going to be right where it needs to be. Now I'm not sure you can see this, but basically there's 3 LEDs here. There's one that says lens, there's one that says fire, and there's one that says air. The air is blinking red, the other 2 are green, and the air pump is actually going to automatically come on when we start this laser. So now we've got everything framed out. I'm going to tell it to go ahead and start. You hear the air pump came on. We now have a green light here. The reason that's beeping is because this was not closed. So that's a hazard to the eyes when this is open. So now that we have it closed, I'm going to tell it to go back home. So now it's home, and now I'm going to say start. So now it's actually cutting. Let me talk about a couple of things on here that are pretty cool features. First, you see the laser there. You see it actually doing our tabs down there. And by the way, highly recommend, even though we have the lens protection here, they also give another pair of safety glasses. If you're going to actually watch the diode, watch the laser cut, highly recommend you to have these on as well. So a couple of things that are included with this laser. Number one, the little air compressor there, which is a dual pump that's feeding this, that's providing what they call air assist. So the air assist is actually pumping air into the laser to clear out any material while it's cutting, helps to keep from fires to build up, things like that. Also, we have an exhaust fan, also included. Comes actually already mounted on the plexiglass here for the top casing, or for the top, whatever you want to call this, guard. And so it's ready. You run the power line all the way down here, plug it in, very easy to do so. The wire tucks away, but anyway, now we have an exhaust fan built in. You also get some hose as well if you want to exhaust that hose outside. We have all the doors open right now with a fan pulling out, so we should be absolutely okay. And we're not building a lot of smoke right now, but love having the air assist built in, as well as the exhaust built in as well. Now you can also, since there's plumbing already right here on the front of the unit, you can also hook your own compressor up to this if you want to. If you want more air supplied, or you want to provide your own compressor, you can also do that and just plumb it in right here, and it's going to feed right there to the head. Now right here on the left side of the unit, you see it says fan on and auto. So that's the exhaust fan back there. And on auto, it's just going to come on with the laser, and on, it's just going to always be on as long as the power switch is on the laser. Now we switch sides over here, and on the right hand side, we have a light switch, again, on and auto. And that's basically this whole thing is a light bar that goes all the way across, and it illuminates that whole internal cutting area so that you can see in there, and so the camera can see. And again, you can have it on auto where it comes on with the laser, or you can just have it on, and as long as you have the power switch on, you're going to get light in there. Have an emergency stop button, just push that down, and it's going to shut everything down, and then twist it to reset it. And then you can also have controls right here where you can move the cutter head or move the laser head, as well as the home button, frame button. And again, if you're operating from a little SD card, you can do everything right there from the control panel. Now we're still cutting on these 3 pieces of wood. I think it's been running like 4.5 minutes right now, and it's almost complete. I believe it's doing 2 passes each, and that's at 60% power and at 1600 millimeters per minute. So that's kind of your power and run speed. That gives you an idea, and you can see it's moving along pretty good. That high-powered laser helps you to be able to make those cuts pretty quickly. So this should be done in another minute or so, and then we can pull that out and get started on something else. But actually, after it gets finished with cutting these, it's going to go back over and actually do the logos on there and actually do some engraving. So it just finished with all the cutting. Now it's going back and it's actually doing the engraving of, I think, the Milwaukee logo and the Shop Tour Reviews logo. So now it's setting at a different setting, and now it knows to do these logos at a different setting than obviously cutting, because we're not cutting it out. We're just going to engrave it there in the wood. Okay. Okay, let's talk about a few things here while this is cutting. Hopefully I can capture your attention over here. You're not staring at the laser forever. Still working on the Milwaukee logo. And by the way, engraving and things like that is going to take longer than just a cut typically. But just wanted to talk about some cuts. And basically we have some different circles here that we've cut out at some different speeds, and we've recorded the speeds and the power on each one of these. And this one right here was 100% power at 100 millimeters per minute. Now you can see it charred pretty good on the edges of that. So can it do this in a single pass? Yes. Do I recommend it? No, just because it's really going to flare up. Like you can watch when it's cutting something like this in one pass, and it's literally shooting flames out the bottom of the laser, which looks kind of cool, but it's really not great for your laser, and also it puts a ton of smoke in the air, and your edges just aren't near as clean. Whereas like this is at 400 millimeters per minute at 100% power and 2 passes. So basically going up on the speed, so it's going faster, and so it gives it a sense to cool off, and you're not trying to make it all in one pass. And then doing 2 passes and cutting, and a little bit less of a char there. And then even stepping up to now 600 millimeters per minute. So again, moving faster, so giving it a chance to cool off, not cutting as deep at 100% power, but doing 3 passes. So again, a little less char, a little more integrity there still left in the wood, and you're not putting as much smoke in the air. So definitely recommend going with multiple passes at a higher speed is going to give you a cleaner cut. You can even back off of the 100% power and do 4 or 5 passes and get a much cleaner and a much nicer cut when you're actually cutting. And you can see here some different speeds here that we put on here. And by the way, you could run these all in one pass, and you could see where, like at the single, this is the one that cut in a single pass, and you see again the blowout there at the bottom. And on this one here, it almost cut through, but lacking just a little bit, as well as right here, that one's starting to come through right there as well. So you can play with your different settings and be able to cut that, 20 millimeter or 3/4 inch, or in this case, this is 1/2 inch plywood, and being able to actually cut through that, whether you're doing it, fast in a single pass, or back off and do it at a faster rate or a faster speed, but more passes. Now you can see here it's now finished the Milwaukee logo. Now it's working on the Shop Tool Reviews logo. And this is the idea of kind of what we're cutting right here. That's kind of the back. This is one of the sides, and this was kind of first rendition, and we changed the idea of what we were working with, not going so deep. But this is the idea of what we're cutting here. And you can see very defined cuts from that laser, and this is doing it, I believe, in 2 passes. I believe I spoke wrong. The one we've got in right now, we did it in 3 passes. We backed off of the power and went with a faster speed with 3 passes to, again, get a really clean cut where you're still going to get a little bit of smokiness, but you're not going to get a deep char. And so you see you get nice clean edges with no flame blowout or anything like that. So now we're finished. I just pushed the laser back, or the laser head back, and you can see here, I can pick up this, and there's our pieces. And you can see here on the engraving, we got pretty detailed on this in the Milwaukee logo, as well as the Shop Tool Reviews. You can see there, even the reviews, those are really small letters there that is still kept from burning those off. However, if you do want to get a lot better at the engraving, let me show you something. They also include with the kit this laser right here, which I think this is like a 1.6 watt laser or 3 watt laser or something like that. But this is excellent for doing, those gradients and stuff like that in wood. So if you're wanting to do a lot of the engraving and get very detailed, then this is the head you want to put on it. Again, it comes with the unit. The 60 watt here is a lot bigger head, a lot heavier as well. You can see the size difference there. But what's the idea? Well, it's kind of the same. Do you want to drive a F350 or a Chevy 3500 everywhere you need to go? Yes, it's going to pull your boat great, pull any tractor you need to. But probably to get around town, you don't really need it. Same with this. If you're doing regular small stuff all the time, you're going to be fine with the smaller laser, and it's going to be more detailed, more nimble. But for the heavy lifting, for the high performance stuff, when you're not needing that ultimate finite detail, That's where the 60-watt laser is going to be faster and obviously more powerful. But this is included with the kit. All right, now let's talk about more useful stuff. Yes, the building battery boxes is awesome and fun, and you can tinker with stuff and make great gifts and things like that. But if you're watching my channel, you typically probably aren't looking at that stuff, but more functional stuff. So I've got a piece of steel right here. Now, we're not going to be able to cut through this 1/8" steel, but what we can do is let me clear this out and let me actually put a new sheet on here. And what we're going to do is, let's just say that we need to make a flange for, say, a small exhaust system, something like that. Maybe it's a motorcycle, or maybe it's a car, or whatever it may be. But you've got some sort of backing plate or some type of mounting surface that you need to make. And what I can do, I can quickly come in here and draw an ellipse or a circle, and I could go in here and say, okay, I want it to be 150 millimeters by 150 millimeters. Yeah, I want a circle. So now I know that's a circle. Okay, and I can move this around where I want to. In fact, let me make that 100. Now we'll leave it 150. Okay, so now I have a circle here. And then inside it, I want to make another circle. So let's just pretend this is going to be, again, an exhaust gasket. And inside there, let's make that 75. A 75. There we go. And then make another one here. And there is a lot easier way to do this, but I'm showing you how I can quickly do it. And then I'm going to draw another square, a rectangle. And again, I'm sure there is a much easier way to do this. I'm going to take my scissor tool here. I'm going to get rid of all these extra lines that I don't want. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. Control D is going to duplicate. I'm going to put that over here. And again, we could use measurement tools and everything else. I'm going to go here to my radius, and I'm going to put a radius right there. Radius right there. You know what? I want the bigger radius than that. And so now I have this flange that I made. Then I'm going to go here and I'm going to group all this together. Or I could even weld it together, and now that's all one unit. I can move that around. I'm going to go to my camera, say update overlay, and now I can see that I don't have anything in there. There's my flange sitting on top of just the grate. And by the way, you don't have to have a honeycomb with this like many other lasers. It actually comes with these aluminum bars here that you can put this way. But also, if you're engraving, you can actually lay these down and stack them beside one another and make like a complete solid floor. But with doing a lot of cutting, typically it works better to have your air gaps right here. Anyway, let's take this piece of nasty rusty metal, put it in here, and now I can go in here and I can say update overlay. And so now we can see our metal. Our hoses are kind of in the way, but let's move that out of the way and say update overlay again. And so now we can see, let's just shrink this down just for our metal's sake, and we'll actually turn it as well. Again, I'll hit frame. I'm going to go home first, then it docks itself in the corner, and now I'll go frame, and we can see it here in this small, that now we're actually framed out where it should be. And I don't want fill, I want line, and then speed, I'm going to slow that down to about 2,000, 1,800, and we're going to bump up the laser to 60 and just do a single pass and say okay. So you see on a single pass, and now we have a nice etching right there. So no, we're not cutting through that, but now I can take that, I can take my zip wheel and actually cut that out, grind it, drill it out, whatever I need to, but now I've made a plate. Or you can take the digital file, send it off to, what is it, Send, Cut, Go, or whatever it is, and have them made. But it's much more than just cutting cardboard and paper and wood to make little crafts. You can actually use this industrially as well. So while this is cutting another one of the boxes that we have, let's talk about pricing on this. Now, this is definitely not a cheap machine by any means, but it also offers a lot of features that most other lasers just frankly do not have. Number one, just the size of it at 16 by 16.5 or 400 millimeters by 415 millimeters is a great size. The power of the 60-watt laser and the smaller engraving laser as well, and the fact that it comes with the fan and the air supply or the air assist as well, along with the top bubble top here that's going to help shield your eyes from any of that damaging laser activity there. That's just some great features that, again, most others are addendums on to having to purchase that. So the Falcon 2 Pro you can get as a 40 watt for $1,299. That's a kind of a half price right now. But if you want the 60 watt as we have it right here with the 1.6 watt head as well, that's going to run you right at $2,650. Right now you can get that on their website, and we'll have a link in the description if you're interested. But again, a lot of power and a lot of features built into this package. Hey, be sure to keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, as well as TikTok. And if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling. Now we had all those small pieces actually fall down in the grates, but all we have to do is open this up, clean out our drawer, throw it away, and we're good to go. Slide our drawer back in.